Welcome to my channel, Ken here. Today let's take a look at the Kii 7 speakers. Let's go! Please hit that subscribe button, leave a comment below what you think of these speakers. Even though the manufacturer sent the speakers to me, the thoughts and opinions are mine and mine alone. So if you can see, these speakers are set up behind me here over my shoulders. What these speakers are the little brother to the Kii 3s that are also behind me here. So I had a chance to not only compare them, but I had a couple of months with these speakers, and let me tell you, they're very, very good speakers. All right, what are they? Well, in like the Kii 3s, the Kii 7s are also a cardioid throwing speaker, basically a cardioid point source, which means that the sound goes out rather than going behind the speaker. So a little bit unusual. Not a lot of speakers have this type of feature, and which makes them very easy to place, and it definitely gives a more focused sound towards the front. They have two 6.5-inch woofers on each speaker. They have a 5-inch mid-range driver and a tweeter. They have basically 600 watts on each speaker, so a lot of power, and each speaker is basically powered by its own amplifier. So it has a DSP system in it, so the way I'm running them right now, I have them digitally connected to my audio interface and let the speakers do the conversion. You don't have to do that, but you have a couple of options, and especially with this Kii remote control, you have multiple ways to plug it in, like USB and AES, EBU. You have a USB connection to them, and you have an SDIF and analog as well. They weigh 30 pounds. They're about 8 inches by 12 by 12, very, very compact, or in centimeters, 20 by 30 by 30. And when you're talking about such a compact speaker, of course, you can't cheat the laws of nature and physics, and of course you're going to have some bass roll off on these speakers, but these speakers have a superpower about placement that I've never seen before, but I'll more about that later. So like the big brother, the Kii 3s, which of course has a larger bass extension, especially with the BXT, that makes it a complete full range speaker. However, it starts rolling off at 50 hertz gradually. It's not a really steep roll off, but what bass is there is extremely tight and detailed, as is the norm with these Kii speakers in general. So there's a lot of things on these speakers that I recognize from having lived with the Kii 3s for years as my main monitors, and the family resemblance is very, very, very clear. However, there are some things about the Kii 7s that I find just unbelievable. And one of the things that these speakers have is probably some of the best imaging I've ever heard from any speaker. So when you're talking about speakers in general, and you have a smaller speaker, they usually image better than bigger speaker, mainly because of the diffraction effect that comes off the actual front of them. So if you see the speakers, they're very narrow, and that makes them have less interference from the front baffle. And also the tweeter has a waveguide on top of it, so the imaging on these speakers is pretty much the best I've ever heard. So they literally throw the image outside of the speaker, pinpoint accuracy between the speakers, and that's just incredible. I was pretty surprised about that, and here's where they actually are better than the Kii 3s in the imaging department. These are not cheap speakers, but I'll say right away, right off the bat, these are the best small monitors I've ever heard. And because of this cardioid dispersion technology they have, it makes them very, very easy to place. Now, I tried them both in my living room and here in the studio as near-field monitors, and just briefly tried them up against the wall. And they do like being up against the wall. Gives them a little more bass extension without sacrificing much, if anything at all. So my recommendation is, if you are forced to be up against the wall, these speakers are for you. But because the speaker in the back, as you can see here, has some adjustments to them, even without the key remote, you can actually adjust the frequency spectrum a little bit, especially in the bass and the top end. These speakers are ultra detailed and very analytical sounding, which is a boon in a studio, because the separation between instruments are among the best I've ever heard. You know, you can get these speakers in both white and gray, as I have them here. So you have some color. I believe you can get some custom colors on these too. There are many reasons to get this key remote. For one thing, you get more control over the actual frequency response, and you also have more control over the latency, which is really important when you're tracking. You can't have latency when you're tracking, but you certainly can get that phase correction when you're mixing. So you can do a preset for, let's say, one with no latency and one with high latency. The way I would place them is that you put the tweeter just above your ears, like an inch above. So basically your ears are between the mid-range and the tweeter to get the best imaging and the best frequency response into your listening position. Then you will get that incredible, very cool image where it actually extends beyond the speakers and at least another 3 or 4 feet beyond on the sides, and it's pretty cool. It's like a massive window you're looking through, or hearing through, I should say. The vertical dispersion is pretty good, but like always, you're gonna get some coloration off your console or your desk, and you can actually compensate for that a little bit also. And you should, because it elevates the lower mid-range and upper bass. These have incredible dynamics for such a small speaker. I attribute that to having 600 watts of juice in each speaker. And they're, like I said before, they're very analytical and they excel in detail, meaning you really can peer into performances on your mixes and stuff like that. And you definitely hear compression and EQ moves very easily on these. If you're into vocal music and you do a lot of vocal recording and mixing, these speakers are definitely for you. I mean, vocals are unbelievable in these speakers. They are an outstanding near-field monitor, whereas the Kii 3s, you need a little more distance to your speaker. Here you can get closer. And I have to say that these are the best small monitors or compact monitors I've heard so far. Yeah, they are next level. They don't sound brittle and thin, and they do sound pretty even, and the warmth from the lower mid-range and upper bass is certainly not lacking in these speakers, that's for sure. They can play well over 100 dBs, which I found pretty surprising. They are very good at any kind of style of music. I threw orchestral, classical music, film scores, metal, pop, jazz, soul at them, and they always sounded phenomenal. Now, this is an attribute to a speaker that does not have preferential treatment on the style of music, which is really nice. I mean, when you listen to orchestral music, for example, you'll hear the hall and the depth of the orchestra, and you listen to a metal band and it's all flat right in your face, and it always sounds the way it's supposed to be. It didn't matter what room I was in, they always sounded good. Of course, in a well-treated room, they're going to be better. These are expensive speakers, but are they worth it? I think they are the speaker to get if you want a high-end monitor and you don't have the space for big monitors. So if you have a desk and you're sitting close to the wall, this is it. This is the holy grail as far as near-field monitors in a small room, for sure. So what do I think of these speakers? Well, I think they are phenomenal. Would I take them over the Kii 3s? Probably not, because I need the bass extension, and there's a little more headroom on the Kii 3s, especially with the BXTs. They can play louder. I mean, they can play plenty loud, especially as near fields. So I stopped at 104 dBs, and I said, they can play loud. And 104 dB sound pressure level is pretty loud. And they don't get super hot, and they're very easy to deal with as far as setup is concerned. So yes, I recommend them highly, especially one high-end speaker and you do not have a lot of space. But I would keep my Kii 3s with the BXTs for the aforementioned reasons. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell button. And until next time, take care.